are doing a demonstration now on how to put bees in your hives. How about a show of hands? Who's never done this before? Well, y'all are in the right place. Now, I brought my smoker just in case, but I don't really want to use a lot of smoke for this process because one of the things that the bees are going to be doing is using pheromones. But there's one that helps the bees all to find their way into their hive. If they get lost when we open this box up, some of these bees are going to be confused. They're going to need to follow that trail of pheromones back down in and find their home. So if I use too much of this smoke, it kind of interferes with that. But we've got it ready just in case. So I'll use my trusty Hive Tool here. Now, you may have purchased a Nucleus hive. That's what this is here. We call it a nuke. Or you may have gotten some packaged bees, which I'll demonstrate in just a minute. This is just a little miniature beehive. So a nuke has a laying queen, and there's a couple of frames of brood in here. There's a couple of frames of food, some pollen, some honey, and there may be an empty frame. It kind of depends on how long they've been in there and how well they've built up. But because this hive has brood in it, these bees have to be able to go out and forage and gather pollen and nectar, but pollen is really important for them right now to feed that growing family. So once you establish bees, they orient on their location and they always come back to that location. They know where their hive is, they know where their home is, where their queen is. So when you take your bees home, you need to set them down where you know you want those bees to live. So you've picked out a spot in your backyard or wherever it is that you want. Maybe you've set up a hive stand, just a couple of cinder blocks, what have you. Put a bottom board down, like, this one right here. So just put a bottom board down, take your nuke box and set it down on that bottom board. Leave it there for a day or two. Then you come back and you do this step that I'm about to show you, okay? So this nuke box has been sitting here, and you'll see that this side has a little door that's open. So these bees have been coming and going. These bees have oriented on this location. They've established that this is indeed where they live. So when they come out the first time, they look around. If they don't recognize their surroundings, then they will take little circular orientation flights, wider and wider circles, taking in that tree and that tree and that building, this field, the water. They say, okay, I know where I'm going, and then they'll take off and they forage and they can find their way back. Once they get close, they know which hive is theirs by the smell, by the odors. But now these bees have been orienting here, so now the fun begins. I'm going to move this box now down over here. And the Bemuses have set up this hive here, all brand new. So there's 5 frames inside here, right, with nothing but foundation on them. Now, if these were mine, I might spray some sugar water on it. That makes the bees walk around on it. They lick all that sugar off, and they will kind of put a bee odor on that as they go and remove any residual plastic odors. But we're going to pretend like we already did that. So I'm just going to spread these apart so there's a big gap in the middle, 5 frames wide, and there's 2 frames on one side, 3 on the other. Now I'm going to come over here, watch out in the front row, and I'm just going to very gently open this up. So you see these bees have been in here long enough where they have started building some of this burr comb on the top. That's a good sign, actually. It means that they've had plenty to eat. They're not starving if they're making that much comb. So I'm just going to set that over here. And now, find my Hive Tool, because these always disappear. And I'm just going to come over here and take a look down inside. And each one of these frames, I'm just going to lift it up. We'll take a quick look at it and see what's going on, and then we'll set it down in there. Notice that the bees pretty much stay right where they are. We like that. As long as you don't turn this comb around and shake it, do a whole lot, then they're going to be happy. So this side, it's got pollen in it, it's got nectar, this side too. So I'm just going to put that right down here. When you purchase nukes from a bee farm, you're usually getting old comb that they want to get rid of. But you want comb that's already drawn out, because this way the queen has drawn comb she can start laying eggs in, they can store pollen in it, they can store nectar in it, turn it into honey. But yes, you're getting older combs, and a bee farm that does this a lot, usually the combs are not very old, because they're doing this year after year, they've already gotten rid of the worst ones. So these might only be a year or two old, but yeah, they are used combs. So here's another one. Let's see what we have here. Oh, lots of capped brood. So all of those cells that are closed up, that's capped brood. Those are larvae that have eaten as much as they can. They told their sisters, the workers, seal me up. I'm ready to spin a cocoon, and I'm gonna turn into an adult bee. Just like a caterpillar spins a cocoon and turns into a butterfly, right? They're gonna go through complete metamorphosis. What's the difference between the two colors? This is honey. This is capped honey. This is capped brood. So there's a difference. You can see the honey here and the brood. Typically, the brood is going to take up most of the frame, but they like to have this layer of honey over the top. And that's just kind of a snack for the bees. They keep it handy. And if you notice, there's some empty cells in between. There's kind of a line right here. So there's pollen in a lot of these cells. The pollen is collected to feed to the brood. It's baby food. And so they want that convenient also to the brood nest. So this one feels a little heavier to me. It's got a little bit more honey on it. So lots of brood, lots of pollen in here. I'm keeping an eye out for the queen. I don't see her, but that's okay. As long as we can see eggs in some of these cells, then we're good. And I do see eggs. So this empty area here has got eggs down in those cells. They're teeny tiny, but you got to develop an eye to be able to see those. So it doesn't matter if I see the queen. As long as I can see those eggs, I know she's in here, or at least there has been a queen in here within the last few days. And even if I was to squash and kill the queen today, which I'm going to try not to for Jeremy's sake, but even if I did, they would be able to raise another one, most likely from the brood that's there, from those eggs. So I just use my Hive tool, kind of wedge it sideways like that. It spreads those apart. The little sticky layer of propolis that keeps everything from moving around, I just break that seal. I just lift it up and just look in there.
Do the queens come marked?
Sometimes the queens do come marked, sometimes they don't. I don't know anything about these bees or where he got them from, so could be. You can see a lot of that yellow pollen in this frame, that area down there kind of in the middle. This area right here looks kind of big lumpy area. These are drone cells. So these are the boy bees. This is all worker brood, but these big lumpy ones, those are drone cells. So those are where they make the boys. Don't see the queen yet, but lots of good pollen on there. And this side I see lots of, not eggs, but there's, looks like day or 2 day old larvae. So the queen has been in here recently.
Do you want that many drones in there?
You don't necessarily want a lot of drones. Drones are unproductive. They don't gather any honey, they don't gather any pollen, they don't do any jobs in the hive. But the workers love to have brothers. When you see drones in a hive, it means times are good. We can get lots of food. When this colony is nutritionally stressed in the summertime, when there's no wildflowers, drones are the first thing to go. The queen will stop laying drones.
Fickle.
That's right. They might produce some into the fall if times are good, but when it starts to get cold, they recognize, hey, we're not making any more queens this year, so they kick all the drones out, and they'll start making them again in the spring. The queen actually controls the gender of her offspring. So, I have not seen our queen yet. That doesn't mean I didn't just miss her. But as I said, I'm not terribly concerned because...
How big is the queen compared to the rest of the bees?
The queen is about the same size as the workers except for her abdomen, which is about 50% bigger. So she's usually pretty easy to spot, but...
So if you don't see the queen today, but you do see eggs, would you just go back in and do an inspection in a few more days, or what would you recommend?
Since I did not see the queen today, but I did see eggs, yeah, I could inspect again in 3 days. Any egg that's in here today will have hatched in 3 days. And then if I still see eggs in 3 days, I know there's still a queen. If I come back in 3 days and there's no eggs, that's a good indication there's not a queen for whatever reason. But by that point, I should see queen cells starting. So they will start to rear a new queen from those larvae that are in there. And that's called emergency queen rearing. They know they don't have a queen, and they know if they don't rear a new one very quickly, they won't have a chance because soon all the larvae will be too old to do that. So now that the combs are in here, all of this burr comb on the top, I am going to scrape it off just so I can put the lid on. Otherwise, that's going to be a little bit problematic. I'm looking in here to make sure the queen's not perhaps walking around in here. There are a few bees in here, but you notice most of them came out. So these are nice, gentle, calm bees. Some bees are what we call runny. When you pick up a comb, they just pour down your arm. We don't like that. We like bees that stay put and keep working on whatever it is they're supposed to be working on. So I'm just gonna scrape off some of this very gently. Try not to upset them. In this case, I probably will use a little smoke now if I didn't let it go out. And that's for the benefit of y'all in the front row. This burr comb, I'm just gonna scrape it off down here. Just let the bees crawl off of it. They'll be okay. So this wax that I'm scraping off, if there's any honey in it, I want the bees to be able to lick that clean and they'll take it back inside. Otherwise, I will save it up. I'll have a little Tupperware or old container or something that I'll throw it in. When I get enough, then I'll melt it down. Now, all of these bees in here, if I was just working alone, I wouldn't give any thought to just giving it a good hard wrap and then dumping it in there. But for y'all's sake, I'm not gonna do that right here in your face. But what I am gonna do, I'm just gonna turn it like this. So now, the entrance to this hive is on my side. I'm gonna put my inner cover back on. And then I'm going to take the lid and I'm going to put it right back on. It gives it a, you can use it to ventilate if you prop up the edge. It's used to give an insulating airspace in the top. Kind of keeps them cooler in the summer, warmer in the winter. But the main reason I like inner covers is propolis. So it's easy to lift this lid off. But this will be glued down to the hive body that it's sitting on. Really strong. You can use your hive tool and you can break that seal and pop it up. But if you don't have an inner cover and you put this on, trying to get your hive tool underneath here and pop that up, you can actually tear this little board off of the lid and you can destroy your lids. I even bent a hive tool one time trying to get a lid off. So there's still a few bees here on this. What is that stuck on? Oh, there's a nail there. Still a few bees here. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to kind of lean it up against the front here. And the entrance to this hive is on this side. Pretty soon the bees are going to come out and they're going to begin to orient on this side. These bees are going to find their way in because they're going to be able to smell that. Now another thing that you want to do when you first start out is to feed your bees. There's lots of different types of feeders. Some fit in the entrance, some fit on top. You can take a Ziploc bag and fill it with syrup and lay it right on top of the brood. Take a razor blade and cut in a couple of slices into it. Just poke it a couple of times and a little bit will dribble out. The bees climb up on top and they just line up like little pigs at a trough and they'll suck it down, and that bag just deflates out from under them. It doesn't gush out unless you make a gigantic hole. But if you're going to do it that way, then of course you need another empty box to put on top or something. This is a feeder right here. So this has a hole in the middle, right? The bees can come up from the inside into the top, and they can go to either side. And then these little rafts float on the syrup, and it gives the bees something to sit on while they're drinking. Bees can't swim very well. So these will float on top of the syrup, and the bees can feed in between there. And so Jeremy actually put a whole bucket of syrup here for me to demonstrate, but this one's pretty dirty, so I think I'd rather let him wash this up before we do it. But all you would do is you put this on the hive underneath the inner cover. So put it right directly on top of that, and then put the little rafts in, pour syrup in each side, and the bees will come up through the middle, they'll feed, and they'll take it right back down. They need a lot of sugar to metabolize all the beeswax that they need. Bees have to consume the equivalent of 1 pound of honey to make about 2 ounces of beeswax. So beeswax is a very dense molecule. It's full of lots of hydrogen bonds in there. That's one reason it burns so well when you make a beeswax candle. There's a lot of energy stored in that beeswax, but they have to have a lot of honey, a lot of sugar, a lot of syrup in order to make that beeswax. So the last step that we would do would be to give them some food in some way, and then put that on top. Then I would put the inner cover on, and then I'd put the lid on that. But I'm not going to do that step, but you guys understand that, right? Now with this process, I really am going to get a bunch of bees out. Okay, now you can start your hives with a nuke. You can start your hives with package bees. There's not really any big difference. I think that nukes are a little bit superior for a couple of reasons. The bees in the nuke box have a queen that they know, they accept her, they know that's their mama. The bees in this box right here, these bees do not know each other. There's a queen in here that they've never met before a couple days ago. These bees were shaken out from all kinds of hives down on the bee farm. So if we just dumped a queen in there with all those bees, they'd kill her. They say, "You're not my mama, stop pretending to be." So that's why the queen is in here separately, and we have to wait for the queen to become accepted. What did I do with my hive tool? There it is. The nice thing about package bees is, if you don't live near a bee farm and you can drive and pick up nukes from somebody, then you can have these shipped to you through the mail, and the post office will bring it right to your door. Although they usually call you from the post office and say, "Your bees are in, would you like to come pick them up?" And you can hear them hoping, they got their fingers crossed, "Oh, please say you'll pick them up," because I don't like to drive around those little white trucks full of bees for some reason. Another advantage of package bees is if you are not starting out with deep Langstroth boxes, then your nukes may not fit. So this is a medium-sized box here. It's a little shorter than that box. That's what most of Jeremy's hives are. Most of the nukes are sold in deep frames that don't fit in those boxes. So you'd have to stack up 2 mediums and put the deep frames in, and then they build combs underneath that you have to brush off later, and it creates other problems. Anybody have top bar hives? Not a single one. Okay, well, some people like top bar hives. These are perfect for top bar hives. Or you can wait and catch that swarm later and put that in your top bar hive. But you can't put frames in there. So when this arrives, you bring it home from the post office, and they're so happy you did. If you can't put them in your hive right now, keep them in a nice, cool, dark place, like your garage or someplace like that. You could even bring them in the house. Somebody asked me about, should you do a mite check? One thing you can do with package bees, bring it in the house and set it down on a big sheet of newspaper and turn it this way and leave them there for a few hours. If they've got a lot of mites, they'll fall down and you'll collect them on the paper. Now another thing that you might want to do as soon as you bring them home, get a spray bottle, like a mister bottle, fill it with sugar syrup, and just spray all the bees down. This gives them a snack, gives them something to do, they like it. If you don't have sugar water ready, just give them clean, pure water and spray them down. They'll appreciate that too. They do have some food inside here, which I'll show you. So there's a can sitting in the top here. This metal can contains sugar syrup, and it's plugging up the top of this package of bees. The underside of the can has a couple of tiny holes in it, and you can take it's dripping a little bit of sugar syrup at a time, and the bees underneath are feeding on that. And they're always sharing food with each other and passing it around. So now the fun begins. What's going to happen when I lift this can out of here? Now that I've shaken them all up and called them mad names and stuff, you people on the front row are going to love this part, right?
They're gonna run.
You're going to run, huh? Usually, I won't say always, but usually what happens when you take this can out is absolutely nothing. Hardly anybody comes out. So I'm just going to close that up. Now you can see there's a little bit of syrup there. And you can see there's a few bees that are drinking on that drop of syrup. And there's still a good amount of syrup in that can. So this is enough for them to probably be in there for a week and a half. Sometimes they arrive and that can's almost empty, but this one's got a good amount in it. So I'm just going to leave that right here.
Who cans syrup?
Who cans syrup? There's actually professional syrup canning places just for beekeepers. Yeah. So if you want to be a packaged bee producer, you can order that by the pallet. So this hive, again, full of frames. It's got the black plastic foundation. It's got beeswax painted onto it, which helps them to accept it a lot easier. I still might spray it down with some sugar water if I wanted to. But I'm going to take about 4 frames out. And I'm going to come back over here to my packaged bees. And did you notice this little yellow plastic strip in here? That's right, this is where the queen is. So the queen goes first class. There's about 12,000 bees going coach. So this is stapled on here. Usually it's pretty easy to get up, unless people are watching you, right? Isn't that how it always works? So now, this is a queen cage. This is called a Benton queen cage. Sometimes they're plastic, but this is the traditional kind that's made out of wood. Well, you can't really see it here. Let me shake a few of these bees off. You can kind of look at the bees, observe what they're doing. You can see if they are showing any aggression towards the queen. Sometimes they're biting at those wires. That's a bad sign. That means they've not accepted her. And if they could, they'd kill her. The queen has a yellow dot. This one is painted. And then there's 4 or 5 attendant bees in there with her. Those bees know her. They're from her hive. They've accepted her. This one's trying to climb up my sleeve. And they know who she is, and they're going to feed her with royal jelly. Sometimes those attendant bees die in there, which has got to be pretty weird for the other ones. I'd like to be on a road trip with all your buddies and one of them dies in the back seat and you still got to drive cross country with their corpse. So that's got to be rough. Family vacation with the bees, right? All right, so on this side of the queen cage, there's this white stuff. It looks like cake frosting, right? Over here. This is called queen candy. This queen candy is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a sugar candy. The worker bees feed on that. They find it delicious, can't resist. But those 4 or 5 attendant bees cannot eat a tablespoon of queen candy very quickly. Those bees would love to get some. Now the bees that are on the outside, they don't know who this queen is, but they're curious. They know that she's a queen bee, they can smell that she's a queen bee, and they're kind of losing their own queen's pheromones out of their bodies, so they're really attracted to her. And what they do is they come up here and they stick their tongues through and they feed the bees on the inside, and the bees on the inside exchange food with them. And at the same time, these bees on the inside are picking up a ton of pheromones from that queen pheromone, and they pass it to the bees on the outside. So this keeps our queen safe, but it introduces her to the others as they pass those pheromones around. It's kind of like the grapevine. Hey, we got a queen. Did you know that? Yeah, there's a new queen over here. I'm not sure about her. What do you think of her? And pretty soon, her pheromone kind of pervades all these other bees. Now, what I'm going to do is take this queen. I'm going to make sure that she's alive. She's moving around in there. If you get a queen who's not moving, if she's dead, call them right away, and you're going to get a replacement. You may have to come back over here and get it, but you're going to want that. So, I'm going to move these out of the way. Now, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to just take this cage, and I didn't get a rubber band. That's what I usually like to do. Take a frame and put a rubber band all the way around it and put, oh, you've got one. Will it fit? Can you stretch it over that? One brave volunteer. Oh, and that's why he's front row. Right in the middle. Yeah. Perfect. Oh, look at that. You caught one bee on her leg. She is mad now. Go for that guy in the black shirt. So we've got a Boy Scout here who came prepared with a rubber band. All right, so this is how you start, with a rubber band right there on your frame. Doesn't matter which side. Now I'm going to take this queen cage, and I'll just pull this yellow tab off because we don't need it. So now I just put that cage right there underneath that rubber band, and I made sure that the screen is to the outside so the bees can continue to interact. And the other thing I did was make sure that the candy plug goes up, not down, right? Because if one of those bees dies in there, we don't want it to fall down and block that entrance. Now the last thing that I'm going to do, which I should have done before I did this, I'm going to take my Hive Tool. There's a cork in each end of this cage. So I'm just going to pull out the cork that blocks the candy plug. Sometimes you can't get it with your Hive Tool, but there's a handy staple here. I got it now, thanks. Or a pocket knife. So I pulled that cork out. Now I have exposed that candy. The candy side goes up. Now 4 bees can't eat that candy very quickly. 10,000 bees can go through it pretty rapidly. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it right here in my hive, facing to the middle of the hive. And now the fun begins. Just going to shake a couple of bees in there. So here's all of my bees. They're all used to sitting in there. So I'm just going to go drop it on the ground like so. Look at that. 99% of the bees are in that hive. This guy in the front row just tinkled a little bit. Now, there's a big layer of bees in here about 3 inches deep. I'm just going to very slowly put these in. And if you were looking down in here, you would see that the bees are traveling up onto the sides of the comb. Take another frame, very gently. Don't want to crush anybody. They'll get out of your way and they'll start walking up. They smell the beeswax. They like to be hanging out on something. They can really stretch their legs now. They're not crowded like they were inside there. So you can do this as soon as you get home today with your package bees. Yeah. Now, these bees have a big job to do, and that's drawing out comb. So I push all of the frames together in the center of the hive. Then you get your feeder, whatever kind of feeder you want, and go ahead and feed them. There are a few bees left in here. I'm just going to set this down here on the ground, and they're going to find their way. Now I'm going to just give them a little puff of smoke there. Notice it'll drive them down between the frames so they're not sitting on the edges. If I had a bee brush, I might brush them a little bit, but I'll just... Oh, I got one, sorry. Now, this can here, you can still use this to feed your bees in various ways. I might take these 2 bricks here, just turn it upside down right here, shake out a little bit of syrup, and they'll find that and they'll keep drinking from it. Or you could put a second hive body on there with an inner cover, like this one. So it's got a hole there, right? I could put that can on top of this, put another empty box on top, and they could feed on that. So lots of different ways to feed your bees. But now, if you were on this side, you would see there's a bunch of bees that are starting to come out. They recognize that, hey, we're in new surroundings, and they've got to explore. They're going to orient to this location. These guys down here on the bottom, I'll just move them to right here, and they'll be able to key in on those odors a little faster. So that's pretty much it. By tomorrow, all of the other bees will find their way in. These bees that were in the lid, they're not there anymore. They've all found their way off somewhere else. Now, if I was to set up a whole bunch of package bees all at once, sometimes you'll find that whichever one is upwind will attract all these lost bees that are out here flying around, because they give off a pheromone called Nasanov scent that attracts all these lost bees. So they fly around at random until they smell this Nasanov scent, and they follow it to its source, which is at the front of the hive, where you'll have several bees fanning their wings and giving off this odor. And if you set up a whole bunch of packages at once, they all wind up down here at this one because the wind is blowing that way, and they follow it all to its source. So you may find that one hive attracts more than others, but it's not usually a big deal. So, 2 different methods of putting bees in.